Gold never traded zero, friends. There's nothing they can engineer that will see gold trade zero. There's nothing. The central banks will be buying it. Everybody will be buying it. It didn't happen. Oil is a consumed commodity. What will happen? The currency debasement will continue, and we will be pivoted into a digital model. Hyperstagflation, extreme moves in gold, extreme moves in everything on asset debasement. So the everything bubble, many people get confused going back to the everything bubble. Yes, stocks have gone up, but actually they're already now in debasement in the only currency that matters, the gold ounce.
On March 11, 2026, the global gold and oil markets continued to experience strong volatility. Gold remains near historic highs due to safe haven demand, while crude oil has slightly corrected after a recent surge as geopolitical tensions, especially related to the Middle East and Iran, show some signs of easing. In short, the global market today shows gold remaining hot near record highs, while oil prices are cooling slightly after a strong rally. Both markets are heavily influenced by geopolitical developments in the Middle East. Market expert and analyst FrancisHunt clarifies that while many investors lump gold and oil together as inflation hedges, they are fundamentally different. There is virtually no scenario where gold loses all its value, noting that central banks and investors around the world would continue buying it during major financial stress. Looking at the broader relationship between commodities, Hunt mentions the gold-to-oil ratio as an important indicator. He notes that although the ratio recently experienced a sharp reversal and pullback, the longer-term trend still suggests that gold will likely outperform oil over the next few years. According to him, even if the ratio falls further in the short term, it could eventually resume its upward trajectory. Based on fundamentals, Hunt expresses shock that oil hasn't already spiked to $250 or $300 per barrel, given the current tensions in global choke points, like the Strait of Hormuz. He warns that because the West relies so heavily on goods from Asia, any massive spike in energy input costs will eventually become all our problem. If you're ready for unfiltered truth and sharp market analysis, hit that subscribe button. Let's explore the latest insights from FrancisHunt's recent interview.
Gold could take a dump if we have complete disinflation or deflation, full-blown deflation. It can, short term. What I'm seeing at the moment in terms of the relationship on gold, I said I would also go and have a look at gold divided by oil. So let's go and have a look at that one as well. We go gold, let's get the right one, Oanda, and then US oil. I want to show you this relationship, and I want to say to you, why long run in 3 years' time, for me, the gold will still have outperformed what oil has done. So let's have a look at this chart. You can see how it's changed since there. I just want to keep that super spike out of the frame. Let's just make sure we've got the right gold. Oanda, that's the wrong oil. Let's get the right oil. There we go. Let's have a look. You'll see our drawings on here. And let's have a look at this to check in with you. So what's happened? A big reversal. You were at 14 down here. You made it to 85.8. We had a structural reversal. You can see the basing ascending grind line of this channel changed violently. Big reversal. You bounced amazingly on our targets, which were 52, which were made over here. Note how you had the most meaningful pullback before that after running our targets. Then you had small pullbacks. This is the biggest to date since this move began. But I will also show you that you were as low as, let's get you a number on that, you were as low as, and now you are higher, despite the news and everybody all being on the oil trade. Let's get that price label for you. The low was 43. So you came from 85 down to 43, and you're actually back up at 59 right now. So I'm not saying plunge protection, whale in back on the gold relative to oil trade. But what I'm saying is, having made this target, it wouldn't shock me in the future, whoops, we just keep that wick out the way, if we had a winding up setup and we ended up in the long term, this will take a while to happen, going higher. Gold never traded zero. The cash market in oil. Oil is a commodity and it's consumed. There are many people that are conflating gold and oil as the same thing because they'll show you a long-term chart and they'll say, look, when gold went up, oil went up too. That's called inflation. That's called debt. That's called debt and fiat debasement. You will see there's quite big differences in their performance, but they look the same if you put them on a log chart and you do a big enough scale. There were periods when the oil went sooner, topped out, and then gold went much further. There are periods where gold went first, but they generally are all broadly going up at the same time. It's very easy to say, you can see they're all the same. Gold never traded zero, friends. There's nothing they can engineer that will see gold trade zero. There's nothing. The central banks will be buying it. Everybody will be buying it. It didn't happen. Oil is a consumed commodity. Gold is the longest in existence monetary metal that transcends all fiat, all derivatives, and all proxies for money that they've ever brought to you, and probably goes well beyond 3,000 years, may go 12, maybe 15, who knows? We can only guess. I'm not going to pretend to know. And has deeply unique properties and is not oil. The fact that when fiat debases, both will go up at varying degrees and percentages is not to say that in the end of this 1913 Fed creation cycle for the entire of the American monetary system, when they created the new banking cartel in America officially, right the way through to this debt crisis, people will look and say, oh, we've typically been around 20 or 40 and try make it a normal range for it. This is a relationship I expect to continue to expand. And as you do more batteries, as you do less humans and depopulation, and as you do greater wealth by an insider cartel, you will have a degree of expansion in the relationship between these. So in the long run, I don't expect this relationship to go back to 14, and even going back to 28, I would treat as a very aggressive gold buying opportunity. My default scenario is, in due course, this will turn into potentially upside continuation, despite it looking like a key reversal now. I think this is a much longer, more dominant trend. You've gone from 14 to 85, a pullback to 43 on the most extreme. They've just engineered a shortage in the most extreme place of chokehold. We should have gone to 250. Oil should have gone to 300. Really? Shouldn't it? If there's no ships going down Hormuz, we should be going 300, 250, 300 already. That's not to say we won't do in due course as this gets worse, but I'm just saying the entire setup is absolute. You're talking about the pain point. You're talking about the throat, the stranglehold on the throat of the entire global structural system, because we all buy stuff from Asia. We all buy stuff from Asia. If they don't get to make stuff because the input costs are too high, how does it long run not become all our problem? It is all our problem, and the scale of this hasn't been captured in the oil market. What is the oil market right now? Well, we'll have a look because we're getting some alerts on it. I think it will have another go at running up in due course. I don't think this is the only part of what we experienced. This is a break of a falling wedge. I expect it to go higher, by the way. And I do expect it's possible that some of those bigger numbers I've mentioned can occur. But the fact is, my shock is, why has it not happened already? Almost. How much time does it take for people to really truly understand the scale of this if it continues? So I think you might have a chance of a bottom here at some point and further going up. And short term, that's negative for gold because they are being seen currently as competing for safe haven. They're being positioned as adversaries for competing as safe haven. In other words, the world is treating them as if they're the same thing. So we will potentially go long again on oil. I'm very glad we took profits on this into the Sunday open here. You can see how that gap closure, despite this beautiful little fractal HVF, which we discussed on the weekend with the community, how it would go. And we were watching the weekend markets. I was very happy to be out up there. Look how low it came back, 76. But you may find you could get some form of structure that sees you going up again. So I'm not saying it's over for oil. Oil is going, and it could go a lot higher. And if it goes a lot higher, it's possible for now, given the framing, that the capital is competing for gold allocation versus oil allocation. What do you buy in fear of debt debasement and monetization? You've gone from, I buy gold because it's a monetary asset and it will hold its value, to, hold on, do I have enough oil in my borders as well?
Regarding the shifting global financial landscape, FrancisHunt warns that wealth and capital are gradually relocating toward new regional hubs. While many wealthy individuals have rushed to Dubai in recent years, the city faces structural vulnerabilities because it relies heavily on imported supply chains. According to Hunt, geopolitical tensions and disruptions in global trade routes could expose these weaknesses. He suggests that Singapore may ultimately emerge as a more stable and strategic financial center for investors seeking long-term security in Southeast Asia. The world is currently living through an everything bubble, fueled by excessive debt and persistent currency debasement. He explains that many investors believe their wealth is growing because asset prices are rising in fiat currencies, but when measured against gold, many of those gains disappear. Hunt predicts that the global economy could move into a period of hyperstagflation, similar to but far more intense than the 1970s. In such an environment, gold will continue to stand out as the ultimate store of value, as it has served as reliable money for thousands of years, while fiat currencies steadily lose purchasing power. Let's jump into the interview.
We warned on this channel that there will be money moving to the Middle East, but avoid being one of those millionaires rushing to Dubai. That Singapore would become the acceptable face of the Southeast Asian complex, and in the long run, they will be winners. We have seen people reallocating resources from Dubai to Singapore. I will show you the tweets that have come out organically, called on this channel many, many times when we say leave. We are not fans of Dubai. Why wouldn't we have been fans on Dubai? Well, anybody who did the research, which most don't do, when you have a look at Dubai, would have come across the following. I'm going to skip forward in this document because we're jumping around all over the place, but I want to get to Dubai as part of that. Dubai is 90% immigration. The emerging bolt hole for UK millionaires. There are 0.32 million. That's a cheap and easy way of saying 320,000. 8% are Emirati nationals. Expats and immigrants are 92% of the Dubai population, that is 3.68 million. That's right, friends. Food and supply logistics, they import 90%, between 80 and 90% of food needs. Limited local agriculture, you can imagine, it's a desert. Castles in the desert, key vulnerabilities, global disruption, shipping delays, geopolitical risks, and price fluctuations. Well, what are you getting right now? You're absolutely, and by the way, these food and imports come in on sea and air freight. What's happened to sea? Well, you understand what's happening to sea, and you also understand flying massive carrier planes over a war zone is also not a very safe thing when the drones are out, requires massive danger pay, and will push costs up immediately. So that is what's happening in Dubai, and that's part of the reason why we said we don't trust Dubai at all. So back to the document, it's a government debt collapse. There is the everything assets bubble. I'm going to come back to AI. And the planned demolition agent, the fire starter of the war price, is the petrodollar experiment, which is unraveling, and for which America, that cheated in the 70s, and the big winner was gold, stagflation, gold, yes, the big winner, stagflation and gold, and led to massive interest rates hikes from the 70s into the 80s. Volcker, interest rate hikes, debt debasement, stagnation, consumer stagnation, negative real wages, negative real returns on bonds, negative real everything. New York City, filthy, full of junkies. It needed a tidy up. It was the whole setup for the later Rudolph Giuliani phase when he was mayor. Everything that happened in those 70s, 80s set up the 90s and the eventual cleanup squad. That's what happened, and that is where you are now. Only you're in a hyper version of it on a far grander scale, because America's debt at those times to its GDP and its manufacturing advantage it had post World War II was next level. They were a strong, fit nation. They are sclerotic 55-year-old bodybuilder, still pumping the nandrolone, the decadurabolin, the anapolin, and still drinking beers late at night and looking for fist fights with a rotten liver, rotten kidneys, wheezing chest. But the muscles are still there. The acne is still there, but they look older than their years. They're yellow around the eyes. They're ill-tempered and they're chaotic. That is the sad state of where America has got. That's where it is. And they are going to be relieved. They're going to be relieved. Younger, fitter fighters are looking them up and down and waiting their time. They're going to be relieved, and it's a sad state of affairs. And I don't say it with any glee. So who will fill the void? Israel will fill the void on the military presence in the Middle East. In the meantime, America will bring resources from rest of the world towards Israel protection. They'll eventually hand it all over for pennies in the pound and will stuff their citizenry again. And Israel will assume all those assets and any bases that aren't destroyed in the longer term. What will happen? The currency debasement will continue and we will be pivoted into a digital model. Hyperstagflation, extreme moves in gold, extreme moves in everything on asset debasement. So the everything bubble, many people get confused going back to the everything bubble. Yes, stocks have gone up, but actually they're already now in debasement in the only currency that matters, the gold ounce. We've pointed out that the NASDAQ composite divided by gold ounce is in an inverted head and shoulder. This is your only unit of account. All the other fiats are lepers. It's like having a beauty contest in a leper colony. There's nobody beautiful there. It's a relative ugliness contest. There is one value, and that is a gold ounce. The gold is the money of millennia, and it is showing you that in actual fact, whilst nominal normies are having their moon shoots and thinking, isn't this great? In actual fact, those things are rebasing to the downside. Your fiat is debasing, your money is debasing, your bonds are debasing, your pension is debasing, even though they'll tell you you made 7% last year, because the unit of account made 70% last year, gold, in most fiat terms. So that is the EMEA. The Straits of Hormuz is a large part of this, and the biggest squeeze is on Southeast Asia, which means the Asian countries are going to get hurt by this.
Recent data and analysis from early 2026 indicate that gold has been significantly outperforming oil, driven by record-breaking performance, safe haven demand, and supply pressures in the energy sector. Gold's strong performance in recent years has reaffirmed its status as a valuable asset in the investment world. If the global economy truly enters a phase of hyperstagflation and continued currency debasement, could gold once again emerge as the ultimate benchmark for measuring real wealth in the financial system? Let us know what you think in the comments. If this video brought you any knowledge, give it a like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you're always in the loop. See you in the next video.